We're still in East Africa, but let's focus over to Tanzania, where Uganda's President Yoweri Museveni paid a one-day visit to Dar es Salaam on Thursday. President Museveni is the first head of state to visit Tanzania since President Samia Suluhu Hassan was sworn in on the 19th of March. His visit came after the two countries, or rather as the two countries, look forward to finalizing a crude oil pipeline deal. On the 11th of April, President Hassan visited Uganda, where they signed 3 key agreements to kick off the construction of the East African crude oil pipeline. The two countries signed a host government agreement, shareholder agreements and tariff agreements too. Now, partners in the pipeline agreement, Total and the China National Offshore Oil Corporation, or CNOC as it's more commonly known, also witnessed the signing of these agreements. Let's explore these developments in the hydrocarbons industry in East Africa in more detail. Abdulsamad Abdulrahim is a co-founder and chair at the Association of Tanzania Oil and Gas. He joins us from Dar es Salaam, Tanzania tonight. So let's start with the funding side of this entire project. Do we know where the money is coming from for constructing this pipeline and at what cost?
A very good evening. Sorry, I cannot hear properly, so maybe you might need to tune in a little bit.
Do we know who's funding the construction of the pipeline and at what cost?
So as you all know that this project is very close to $4 billion. It will be obviously funded by a mixture of shareholders' equity as well as a debt raised on international markets. So there is a plenty of appetite for that.
But there is an ongoing campaign, is there not, targeting banks and telling them that they should not invest in this pipeline, given the environmental damage being done by fossil fuels. Given that campaign, isn't it likely that banks will shy away from providing debt financing for this pipeline?
As you know, I'm not an expert on such matters, but with regards to the environmental, as you mentioned, let me be very clear that Total and the partners, CNOC, have undertaken a rigorous and very thorough environmental and social assessment, as well as mitigation strategies for this project. So there were studies which were done in the past. They also conducted a very detailed, what we call it, biodiversity, and involved social impact for local communities. So, but again, every human being and the people have the right to express their concerns and to raise their issues. But as for the funding part, there are a multitude of different banks in the world with different outlook and policies. There remains liquidity, of course, in the market for the project of this type of magnitude, which create, of course, a significant in-country value.
Okay, so just go back to that funding question, because it's extremely important to getting this project off the ground. In the event that banks say no, isn't it feasible that perhaps Tanzania and Uganda might consider raising the debt on their own, putting the debt on the public balance sheet in order to essentially get it off the ground?
As I mentioned before, when it comes to the funding itself, when you look at the magnitude of this project, of course, it requires multiple of stakeholders involved. But I can guarantee you that there are funders already in place, and the EACOP project has. Otherwise, if they didn't have the funding, they would not have gone to the market and, of course, signed the deal for host government agreement, which today we have witnessed the final part of the host government agreement. So these are the steps that needs to be taken by any investors.
You've said
in terms of the funding, they are.
You've said there are funders in place. Do we know who they are?
I'm not in a position to speak on what you call it, the investors' behalf, and I'm not obviously an expert. But it would be prudent and important for probably yourself to speak to them directly. But all I know is what has been publicly and put on public domain, but also expressed to the leaders of the United Republic of Tanzania and Uganda today and previously.
All right, one last question for you, sir. As I understand it, the tariff agreement that Tanzania set up will see the country charging just under $13 per barrel of crude transported through the line. Is that a fixed number regardless of whatever the price of crude is at, or are there ways or triggers that will essentially vary that price?
It's actually $12.7 per barrel. And yes, it is fixed per barrel shipped. And to be very clear, this tariff will be paid by the Ugandan shippers, or what we call it, the Ugandan oil produced in Uganda to the EACOP.
So essentially it would be paid by the project operators, for lack of a better word. CNOOC and Total will be the ones paying that tariff to Tanzania.
That is right. That's part of the joint venture partners.
All right, we'll leave it there for the time being. Abdulsamad Abdulrahim, co-founder and chair of the Association of Tanzania Oil and Gas, joining us there live from Dar es Salaam, Tanzania. Thank you for your time.